Sonic the Hedgehog, for better or worse, has been a staple of the video game world for years. Everybody knows who Sonic is. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, you've heard of the little blue hedgehog that runs fast. He's been around since 1991 and managed to maintain relevance all the way through to today. Not every video game can do that. He's had many different adventures over multiple forms of media, including games, TV shows, comics, movies, and more. But that's the franchise. I want to talk about Sonic the character. Who really is this little blue hedgehog and what does he symbolize? What does he mean? The question I intend to answer with this video is this. What does Sonic represent as a character and why does that matter now?
Woo!
Let's start with the basics. Who is Sonic? Well, first off, in some versions of the character, Sonic isn't even his real legal name. His parents originally named him Ogilvy Maurice Hedgehog, although he later changed it to Sonic thinking it sounded cooler. Of course, this isn't canon now, so for real, his name is Sonic T. Hedgehog, as Knuckles has referenced before that he thought his middle name was Duh. Sonic is blue, he's made of goes fast, and there seemingly isn't an explanation as to why he can do what he does. Sonic is a force of nature, something that can't be stopped by natural means, hence why he's so hated by Dr. Eggman. Dr. Eggman, or Robotnik as he's been known by in the past, wishes to rule the world, and he attempts to accomplish this via enslaving animals and forcing them to run his machines. Sonic stops him, rinse repeat for 30 years. Let's make our lives a little easier and restrict ourselves to the game canon for this video. If we added the comics in, the movies in, all of the TV shows, this video would be much longer than it needed to be. When video game nerds talk about Sonic, they have three eras they like to separate him into. We've got the classic era, including all of the old 2D games for the Sega Genesis. After that comes the adventure era, which is when Sonic first made the jump to 3D gameplay. Then finally, we have the modern era, or boost era, which is defined by its spotty, hit-or-miss reception. These three eras have been the sort of defining way to categorize Sonic games, so I'm not going to change that. By categorizing these games, we can separate them into manageable sections. I want to start by looking at the styles of these games and try to figure out what they are trying to do. First up are the classic Sonic games. In classic Sonic games, you typically start in a sort of lush green landscape and slowly transition to more industrial settings, with all of that culminating in a big final battle in some machine or factory of Eggman's design. The game Sonic CD further explores this idea with its past-future mechanic, showing off the lush, almost overgrown state of things in the past and the mechanized future Robotnik plans on attaining. In this game, you can stop Robotnik by sabotaging his plans in the past and making a good future in the zone, which you can even explore. But what does Sonic represent in these instances? In Playing Nature, Alenda Chang argues that video games teach players about ecological concepts like entropy and collapse. She uses comparisons to games like Firewatch and Colossal Cave Adventure, both games that depict accurate, real-life locations while also signifying the importance of these locales. Other games go even further and focus solely on these environmental concepts like World Without Oil. Sonic, while unintentionally being the first to do this, isn't the only video game with this mindset. According to Gaia Amadori of the Catholic University of Milan, games are even headed in this direction. According to their research, games offer less moralizing and therefore less off-putting ways to encourage people to consider environmental problems and their solutions. Sonic employs a more visceral technique, showing visible consequences of what happens if you don't fight for freedom, even having alternate ending screens depending on your gameplay. Of course, none of this is told to you, you have to put the pieces together yourself. The classic games were released on the Sega Genesis, a chunky piece of hardware with limited capabilities. Because of this, the stories of these games were limited, often relegated to a background element. Sonic hasn't quite started becoming the yappy little gremlin people think of him as in the modern day, and in fact doesn't say much at all. Our little blue hero has a sort of silent protagonist vibe, but that isn't by choice. Developers couldn't wait to get our boy some vocal cords, and that's when we make the leap to the adventure era. Sonic has had a rough transition into 3D, is a phrase that has been memified to death within the Sonic fandom. Game reviewers seem to hate the 3D games, not unjustifiably, the games are not without their flaws. Sonic Adventure is janky. Sonic Adventure 2 receives maybe a little more praise than it deserves. Sonic Heroes suffers from repetitive gameplay, and 06 is, well, terrible. Luckily, again, gameplay is not the focus here, characterization is. We can learn a lot about these characters by listening to the music associated with them. Something I really like about Sonic games is the music. I mean seriously, there is no reason this franchise should be this ridiculously stacked in terms of banger tracks. I mean seriously, listen to this. Now, I won't go as far as to say that every single track is perfect. Sonic has definitely had its fair share of stinkers in the past. But for the most part, Sonic music is some of the very best you'll get from video game music. Something else that's really cool about post-90s Sonic is that our little blue hedgehog gets his own theme music in different games. In Adventure and Adventure 2, Sonic's theme is It Doesn't Matter, performed by Tony Harnell. Let's take a quick listen to the chorus of the song, and then we'll go from there. To sum things up with this song, essentially it's all about living by your feelings and living life without regrets. We saw a bit of that fight for freedom in the classic games, and now it's on full display here. We can take this a step further by looking at Sonic Adventure 2, which features everyone's favorite edgy hedgehog, Shadow. Shadow is meant to be a foil to Sonic. Where Sonic is free to live life without regrets, Shadow is shackled to his past, letting it fester and causing him to lash out against those who wronged him. The main theme of Sonic Adventure 2 is the song Live and Learn, performed by the legendary band Crush 40. If the title of the song wasn't enough, the lyrics tie even further into the themes of these two characters. Let's take a quick look at the chorus of Live and Learn. According to a study by the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, heavy metal music as a genre has lyrics that often coincide with ideas like loneliness, desire, freedom, and fearlessness. Sonic, who is unburdened by the mistakes of his past, is free to live a life without regret. Shadow, on the other hand, has to wrestle with the pain and loss of the past. Even with this pain, however, Sonic encourages him to become something more, to learn from the mistakes of his past and live a life unburdened by his pain. This helps us tie back into Sonic's heroic characteristics. Sonic's actions are meant to elicit moral feelings in the player. In some games, you get presented with choices to make either good or bad decisions, but that's never happened in a Sonic game. A study performed over at Lund University went over another game, Witcher 3, in which they explored how players' actions affect other entities within the game in terms of moral commitment. They referenced George Simmel's concept of the Stranger, a character who wanders into a story of which they bring qualities that are not related to it. Their study draws a moral circle, and the player then goes through the world and expands that circle. Sonic does the same, running through the moral circle, affecting it with his viewpoints, and then running on to the next adventure. The only difference is that no matter how you play the game, Sonic is always fighting with the same ideal in mind: freedom. Sonic Unleashed is our official introduction into the modern era for this video, and here we can start looking at things Sonic says to gain a deeper understanding of him as a character. In Unleashed, Sonic is trying to stop Dark Gaia, an eldritch force Eggman woke up from its rebirth cycle in order to help him take over the world. He works together with a little animal named Chip, who lost his memories when the world was split apart. Throughout the game, Sonic and Chip adventure across the world in search of Gaia temples to restore the Chaos Emeralds, and in turn, the continents back to their rightful place. As they travel, Chip begins to regain his memories of who he is, discovering he is actually the being Light Gaia. Their final battle culminates in Sonic and Light Gaia versus Eggman and Dark Gaia, where Chip seals himself and Dark Gaia away inside the Earth's core. After the hard-fought battle, Sonic says a heartfelt goodbye to Chip after having taught him the value of friendship. In video games as an unheroic medium, the child hero's journey, Rie analyzes games like Roki and Knights and Bikes, discovering the main characters of these games striving for interdependence rather than standing alone. In a game like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic discovers that he can't win this fight alone and relies on his friends like Chip to help him save the world. There is even a famous moment in the Archie Sonic comics where Sonic has to learn to take a step back and let his friends help him take down Eggman in one of the most satisfying hero-villain showdowns ever. All this is to say that Sonic understands the value of friendship, both from a practical standpoint and an emotional standpoint. Sonic doesn't just help his friends because it helps him, he does it because he wants to. We can see this in-game with his relationship with Chip.
Sonic, I will never, ever forget you. Thank you, Sonic. Goodbye, friend. Hey! Whoa, what?
Where do you think you're off to all by yourself?
What? But my memory is back now, and, well, from here on out, it's my responsibility, so, I mean, there's no reason for you to come along, so I should just...
Do I need a reason to want to help out a friend?
Thanks, Sonic. Yeah!
Now that we've established Sonic's core ideals of freedom and friendship, it's time to delve into why this all matters. Sonic has been against oppression his entire life, and there isn't a single medium that he's been portrayed through that has displayed him as anything but that. Video games have, in the past, been taken not so seriously by others as a form of expression, but I don't necessarily think that's fair. In a study titled Whose Expression Is It Anyways? Video Games and the Freedom of Expression, researchers established that play isn't just the activities in themselves that matter, but the mindset with which the player approaches the game. A player approaching a Sonic game typically align themselves with the ideals of Sonic, thus in some sense aligning themselves with a belief in freedom and friendship. Ideals like these matter in the real world, especially freedom. Sonic's philosophy on freedom is an interesting one, as in his mind, everyone should be free. Not just free in the sense of not being held in captivity, but free to make their own decisions, free to make mistakes, and free to try again. Sonic and Eggman clash on a fundamental level because Sonic believes in freedom and Eggman believes in taking that freedom away. Characters like Knuckles and Shadow are free to make mistakes and do in their debut games, but Sonic believes in that freedom to try again, to try to do better, and both do make that turnaround, validating his beliefs. Freedom has never been a more important topic than it is in today's world. Where oppression can be found virtually anywhere, the significance of fighting back is a major topic. A study of Russian author D. Glukhovsky's works delved deeper into the meaning of freedom, specifically the absence of freedom, stating that, deprived of the opportunity to make decisions, a person loses the meaning of existence. This is something Sonic would fundamentally disagree with. Freedom is meaning for him, and by proxy, freedom is meaning for the player as well. Learning from these lessons Sonic teaches us isn't something to be taken lightly either. The potential for video games to educate is limitless. An interview with James Paul Gee, a prolific game studies researcher, states that games could be used to help the person or player grow beyond a game and move into the future. That's exactly what Sonic games are all about. Sonic is a character that runs forward, pushing through any trials and runs ahead towards a better, brighter tomorrow. Honestly, I could go on and on about Sonic and his ideals. He has even more character themes that encapsulate his freedom attitude, like the themes from Sonic 06, Sonic Colors, Sonic Forces, and Sonic Frontiers, as well as what he does in those games. But then we'd be here all day. The point I want to drive home is this. Sonic is meant to be an inspiration to us all. Sonic's ideals of freedom and friendship exist to inspire. He reminds you to live life to the fullest and learn from your mistakes. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you feel about the past, only that the present holds endless possibilities for you, and that you should always reach for the stars. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just keep on running, and you'll always find your way.